What's up, everybody? Welcome to Homertown Hockey, presented by Slap.
You son of a
Fucking
bitch.
goddamn it! Well, we're sticking with it. Welcome to Homertown Hockey, presented by Slapstick Clothing. My name's Phil Bettner. As usual, I'm joined by Colton Gogger.
I fucking hate you.
And not as usual, Trenton isn't here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Trent.
So.
I don't know why I'm apologizing to Trent.
Yeah.
Fuck him. He's not here.
He bailed on us.
Yeah, exactly.
Did some Taking Back Sunday shit. He could slit your throat and you'd apologize for bleeding on his shirt. You fucking asshole.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, yeah, he just had
Jesus.
some shit going on. I guess it's okay for him to have a life outside of our shitty podcast where we tell dick jokes and talk about touching boobs in the European leagues.
Yeah.
I'm not letting that die.
I suppose that's okay. No, don't let it die.
Alright, well. Yeah, we didn't record
we've been
last
off
week because
for
of
a
the
minute.
Super Bowl. That was a fucking... What a time that was.
A waste of time.
Yeah, we should have just recorded.
We should have, and
I know they
it's
don't...
not like
Go ahead.
it's not like the subject matter would have been any different a week later.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I know they don't like to show streakers and stuff, but, like, that Super Bowl specifically, as boring and unentertaining as it was, if there was ever a time where they should just go against what they try to do and just show the streaker, that was the time for it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like,
I want to see a dude running around in a bra and panties. It's funny.
do you believe that he placed that prop bet at, like, plus 7,500 odds and put 5,000 on it and won 375,000? I think it was plus 750.
Yeah, so I didn't believe it at first because most sports books cap prop bets.
Yeah.
So there was no chance any casino, even wherever he was going to take that bet because that's just not something they do, and you'll never hear of a prop bet cashing out that much, anyways. But if it's true that he just went to different casinos and made the same bet. If that's true, because that's the other thing I've seen is that like casinos are able to have been able to verify that he just went in and like made a ton of bets on it. Then I believe it, but I'm inclined to say no, it's not true. Plus, the old adage is like, "Show us the ticket."
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's kind of the thing that strikes me is that of all this talk about it, we haven't seen any of those stubs. The only thing I think gives it some believability is if there's any year where a casino would let you throw a fuck ton of money on a prop bet about a speaker, the limited attendance Super Bowl would be the one.
Right, but still, that's the thing.
But it's so easy to fix.
Exactly, and that's the problem with prop bets is all you have to do is be like, "Hey, Tom, run for 8 yards." You know what I mean? Like, prop bets are super riggable, super fixable, so that's why they're usually capped. And that amount of money comes up as a red flag to me that didn't actually,
Ain't nobody
place
getting
the
Tom
bet.
to run for 8 yards.
Right, but it's just one of those things where it's like, bro, there's no fucking chance you made that much money on that bet.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to believe it, so not a big enough deal was made about it that I don't think anyone will bother debunking it. So I'm just gonna let it sit for 5 years and then just talk about it. You remember the time that guy did that? It'll be fun then.
Right.
All right.
Agreed, but other than that, game sucked. We should have just recorded a podcast.
Yeah, we really blew it there.
Yeah, well, whatever. But there's a lot of news, so you want to get into this?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, cool. Where else to start but COVID-19?
Oh boy.
There are currently 9 to 10 teams that have either players or coaches currently on the NHL protocol list, and including my team, which we'll get into the Wild in a bit. With that, the NHL announced some new protocol. So they're going to remove the glass in the penalty box and behind the benches. They're adding air filtration system to the benches and penalty box. All meetings are now virtual minus team practices. The NHL is enforcing a strict new quarantine guideline, essentially saying players cannot leave their house unless it is for practice or games. And they're reducing the amount that teams and players will have in-person contact.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's any surprise given the last 2 weeks of the NHL season that they had to completely change their protocols. But again, like me and you have talked about before, these are rules that players and teams had to agree upon so that local governments could allow these teams to play this year. So do you think the NHL is scrambling a little bit at this point to find a common ground with COVID? Or not common ground, but
they're trying to negotiate with COVID.
Yes, COVID. How do you? Yeah, it's a fine line they're trying to walk when not playing in a bubble at this point.
Yeah, I don't think it's working very good.
No.
I don't know. Part of me is worried about if this season is going to be finished or without any league-wide delays. There was, I want to say it was Dreger or LeBrun was reporting that the league was looking at reevaluating everything from the top down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. What they're doing right now seems to not really be working. It's not just the teams in the South anymore. You're even starting to see like the occasional problems up in the Canadian teams. I think it's funny that when talking about the fact that for a while only Canadian teams weren't having issues with COVID, suddenly Canadians weren't so eager to claim that the players on American teams are in fact Canadians, like they are when Canadian teams can't win the Stanley Cup. They have to remind you, well, all the players are Canadian, but when American teams can't keep from getting COVID, they're not really singing that tune so much.
No, they're not. Yeah, you saw it in the NBA too. When the NBA first came back around the same time, their first month of their season had a ton of COVID cases in it because they weren't in a bubble, and it gets really hard to control the environment, because players are going to do what players want to do, regardless of guidelines. But it seems that the NHL seemingly has... I wonder if it gets to the point where if they find players are breaking protocol, we're going to start to see fines levied out again. Because the last team we saw get fined was the Capitals.
Yeah.
And it's not like anything has truly changed since then. Like we thought it might. We sat here and said like, oh, this is a warning shot to teams about breaking protocol, and now that seems to be a thing of the past.
Well, I think one difference with the Capitals is that they were caught breaking protocol, and it resulted in 2 positive tests. I don't know. You'd think the players would be smart enough to not get caught. But then, was it Jake Virtanen that like posted a video of himself doing shots at the bar like right before the bubble last year?
Yeah.
I'm sure some of these guys fall into the anti-mask category, and that's obviously
no way.
an issue
Hockey
there.
Players?
Yeah, no, it's insane. I know. I don't really know. The thing is, I also, to an extent, I wonder what the NHL really can do short of a bubble, and I don't think a bubble is an option.
The ship has sailed on a bubble.
Exactly.
It just has.
Yeah.
You opened Pandora's box by not going back into a bubble.
Exactly. And I mean, even besides that, like the logistics behind making a regular season bubble just doesn't seem realistic.
No.
It's not like the playoffs where it's a couple months and, like a fifth of the league is done already.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Well, you saw that last year because the MLB started later than every other major sport. Well, obviously they had the big break, but the MLB wasn't going to plan on starting until after that first shutdown of sports anyways. Like their season wouldn't have started before the shutdown, and there was that rumor that they were going to play their whole regular season in a legitimate bubble in Arizona, and the players are like, "We're not fucking doing that."
Yeah.
And so it just is. You can't do a whole. I understand if the NHL comes back and says, "Hey, guess what? Playoffs bubble. We're taking 3 weeks off, 2 weeks off for you to quarantine and test, but we're doing another bubble for the playoffs." I could see that if things aren't better by that time, and that's the caveat here. But I could see the bubble potentially coming back for the postseason.
I could see it for the postseason. Like I said, I don't know. I just think it comes down to, like, as far as getting to there, I don't know what the NHL can do. I mean, you're playing during a global pandemic. They, you know, as much as they keep throwing a word around, like, overabundance of caution, it's not under their control, really.
It's also about the best you can do is be overly cautious.
Yeah, I mean, people keep getting mad about that. I'm so tired of hearing, like, why is the game delayed? Isn't this why we have taxi squads? Like, no, we have taxi squads to, like, lessen travel between AHL and NHL teams. They never, during an active outbreak, they never said that they were just going to activate one of the guys who was practicing with the player that tested positive. I don't know where people got that impression that an active outbreak would just be handled by the taxi squad.
Right, exactly. And, you know, talking about there's only so much you can do. Like on the Wild's case, it started with Marcus Foligno, and they think he literally just got it from, like, his family. Like, somebody in his family went out and ran to Target or something when he was on the road or, you know, whatever. And then they came back and he got 12 people, including one staff member, sick.
Yeah.
Like, what are you supposed to do at that point?
Well, and then, you know, same like with Vegas, there was the rumors about Petrangelo's wife having come in and that being, like, what caused a lot of the spread. I didn't look too much into it because I don't care too much about gossip about the families of Vegas players. But, yeah, I mean, like you said, it even just takes, like, a family member of a player.
Right, to run to Target to get something.
Yeah.
And the NHL can't control that because guess what? These families are going to need groceries.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's basic shit. And, you know, I've seen it kind of thrown around where it's like, oh, if you're going to make these players stay at home, you know, they can just order groceries and have them sent to the house. Yeah, there's some shit you can't just have sent to the house, man.
Yeah.
Like,
anal beads. You'll have to listen to Homertown Hijinks. Listen to the very end for that one.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's a fucking global pandemic, and I'm very confused by the amount of people who didn't think that some type of outbreak was a possibility.
Yeah. I mean, this was always gonna happen at some point. I don't know if we all expected it to be so bad instantly. Like, I kind of thought it might be a while before slip-ups started happening. But then, like, we saw the case in Washington almost immediately.
But like you said, that's their own fault because they deliberately broke protocol.
Yeah,
you know?
And with these other teams, we don't really know. You know, if people were breaking protocol, they were smart enough to not get busted.
True.
I find it hard to believe that not at least one case had anything to do with that. Or that there's players who have been breaking protocol and didn't contract the virus, so are going to get off.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I don't know.
Exactly.
When you're telling grown men with a lot of money what they can and can't do, there's going to be issues. And this was always going to be an issue.
Always going to be an issue. So, yeah, I'm sick of fucking talking about COVID every episode.
Oh, thank God.
So,
we can just ignore it for the rest of the year. like true Americans.
Yeah. You want to run through some injury news real quick?
Oh, yay, this is fun too.
Yeah. Wayne Simmons is going to be out at least 6 weeks with a broken wrist.
Yeah, that sucks.
That's brutal. That is.
Yeah,
But they are.
Go ahead.
They're getting Jumbo back tomorrow. Jumbo's playing tomorrow night.
Well, that's good for them. Yeah. Simmons, I kind of questioned with Toronto talking about how they need to add grit and stuff. The decision to get that via. Simmons isn't that old. He just has played a very tough game his whole career, so his body seems to have worn down more than most.
Leading up to tonight, I kind of wondered. I'm like, oh, is that going to be it? 6 weeks? Like, is he done now? And I looked it up, and it's like, oh shit! Like, I thought he was in the NHL a lot longer than that.
Yeah, no, I think he's like Crosby's age, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's not that old of a player. He just has really played the tough areas for a long time. But that, he kind of has the body of a player like Joe Thornton's age at this point. And he's one of those guys that whenever you talk about him, you're just like, holy fuck, this dude's been around since I started. Like, you feel like he's just been there every season. Yeah. And you look and it's like, oh no. When someone's good for the Flyers, it feels like they've been there for fucking ever to me.
Jakub Voracek.
That bastard. Oh.
It'll be nice for the Leafs to get Jumbo back, but that's going to hurt. I mean, I don't know how much it'll hurt to miss Simmons because definitely playing a reduced role, but he had a spot on that team.
Yeah, he was playing real well.
He was playing well. Cale Makar has been listed day-to-day with an upper body injury. He was kind of stuck in protocol limbo for a minute after the Wild came to Denver, but he's not playing tonight against the Knights, and it kind of seems like it's a nagging injury that is going to put him day-to-day to week-to-week.
They're just keeping him off the ice to protect him until the Crosby trade goes through, man.
Are you suggesting a Cale Makar for Sidney Crosby straight up?
Not really, but I mean, the way that all these Penguins trade rumors are going out of control, someone is, I'm sure. But no, that sucks. Colorado has kind of underwhelmed me so far.
We'll get into that stuff. I have some questions for you, so we'll talk about that in a minute. It sucks because I think Cale Makar is one of the most enjoyable young defensemen to watch in the NHL. So, but yeah, so that's
good at hockey.
Very good, dude. Very good at hockey. Let's dip into some transaction stuff. And a lot of dudes got cut from a lot of teams.
Yeah.
James Neal got placed on waivers from the Oilers, and he eventually cleared waivers.
Yeah.
Paul Byron got put on waivers by the Habs.
Can I just say real quick, when that Neal for Lucic trade went through, who would have thought that we would see Neal on waivers, and Lucic is putting up I want to say he's putting up 0.5 points per game right now in Calgary. He's kind of had a bit of a renaissance, as much as a guy that plays his game at his age is going to have at this point in his career.
Okay. Agreed. I think at this point, for Lucic, what do you fucking want from me, man?
There was definitely an okay on the record. We just cut out for a second, so we just had Colt pick up like nothing happened, but we recorded him saying okay, and I'm not fixing it again, so.
Yeah. Fuck it. Anyways, dude, like you said, at that age, anything you can get out of him is going to be production.
Yeah. I mean, his salary's a little bit tough to swallow, but he's at least a good player. Like, it's better than having a shitty overpaid player.
Right. So, yeah, interesting that I honestly am not going to lie to you. Totally forgot James Neal was even on the Oilers this year.
Yeah. He is still a hockey player, it turns out. Because that was kind of where I was with James Neal.
Yeah, exactly. Paul Byron also got put on waivers by the Habs today. So
that's a bit of a surprising one.
That is a bit of a surprising one. But also I know he's not I would say, at least with Habs fans, he's not in the greatest graces over the last 2 seasons.
Is anybody?
No.
Yeah.
Exactly. Unless your name is Kotkaniemi or Suzuki.
Yeah. I like how Kotkaniemi can put up, like, good numbers for a third-line center, and, like, they think he should be on Team Canada. He is not Canadian. You know what I mean.
Wait, hold on. You're telling me a dude named Jesper Kotkaniemi isn't Canadian?
You know what?
Shocked.
It's been a long day.
God damn.
They think that he is an Olympic level player for some reason.
I mean, if you tell me, give me the argument of like Kotkaniemi could be an Olympic level player, we can have that discussion. But then you throw the little for Team Canada, then I just think you're fucking stupid.
I might be. Let's not rule anything out here.
The Senators traded Alex Galchenyuk to the Hurricanes and immediately put him on waivers.
Yep. That was... Yeah. Because at first when I saw that trade, I kind of... And that was for Ryan Dzingel.
Yep, for Ryan Dzingel.
For Ryan Dzingel. Not only is he back in Ottawa, he's back playing for less than what they had offered him when he left. When keeping it real goes wrong really applies here.
Can you imagine being the person who has to tell Ryan Dzingel that?
Like, you're going back to Ottawa? because we have to have Cedric Paquette and Alex Galchenyuk.
Well, but imagine walking up to Ryan Dzingel and being like, hey, so you've been traded. He's like, okay, where am I going? And he's like, this is the bad part. Going back to Ottawa. That's when you that's the equivalent of like pulling the grenade and then running out of the room. Like just be like, yeah.
Well, fortunately, whoever had to tell him that is the first person to be happy about this pandemic, because they didn't have to go into the room to tell him.
They literally had to tell him how we're recording this podcast.
Yeah. And they can hang up.
Right. Exactly. You've been traded by boop. Yeah. So that's dumb. I don't understand that trade at all, though. Like, do you?
No, not really. At first I kind of thought maybe they were going to try to have like a reclamation project with Galchenyuk. But clearly not, as he was pretty much immediately placed on waivers.
Yeah.
I don't know how much I think Cedric Paquette adds to the Hurricanes. I mean,
if anything.
I guess maybe they're thinking he can fill that Justin Williams role as a leader. It's...
Maybe.
I understand why the Senators want this deal.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of circumvented his refusal to re-sign with them.
Right.
But yeah, on Carolina's side, I don't really get it.
Yeah, it's one of those trades you're like, you look at and look at and look at, and you just go, you have no fucking idea.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
What's Paquette making this year?
Oh, fuck if I know, dude. I didn't even bother to look up what Paquette's making.
Hold on a second. Ooh, yeah. Our listener is going to love that typing noise. This is the last year. Okay. So I could see this. This is the last year
Mhm.
of a $1.65 million deal for Cedric Paquette per
Okay.
not altogether. And it
Okay.
was Galchenyuk was only on a 1-year deal. So I guess that makes sense. It's gotta be, right? What else could they be seeing in this trade?
I don't know, man. But all I'll say about this is if the Minnesota Wild give up on Alex Galchenyuk after half a season, maybe the NHL should give up on Alex Galchenyuk after half a season.
Not good enough to stick around on the Ottawa Senators.
Right. Although I shouldn't talk shit because the Wild gave up on Sean Bergenheim after a fucking 3 months.
You know what? This was the last year on Dzingel's contract too.
Ooh. Then what the fuck were they doing?
I mean, they did still. Let's move on.
Yeah.
I don't want to dabble in the dark arts of this trade.
Yeah. There's some other small transactional things, but I didn't bother to write them down because they were stupid.
Okay.
Mikko, yeah, it's just they were dumb. Mikko Koivu retired after 2 games in Columbus. So that's a thing.
I can't imagine if there's something in Columbus that could be like maybe forced him out. Like,
dude,
made
I
him
don't
not
know.
want to be there.
Dude, it seems like Columbus is just such a bright and happy place to be these days. Of like you living in Ohio, John Tortorella is your coach. I mean, fuck, what wouldn't you want?
Everyone wants to stay there and re-sign long-term deals there.
Oh my god, nobody's getting benched.
Yeah, no.
Like
After putting up 3 goals in 3 games, you definitely wouldn't get benched from mouthing off to a coach. We want to just go yeah, Niederreiter retiring. I'll let you talk about that, and then we might as well open the Tortorella can of worms now.
Did you just say Niederreiter?
Mikko Koivu. Wow.
I was like, whoa, Nino Niederreiter retired? Holy shit.
Dude, I mix up so many of the players from those Wild teams.
Yeah, but
most forgettable team in the league, man.
Fuck you. But also, it hurts because it's true. Anyways, yeah, Mikko Koivu. Sucks that he called it a career.
God, I'm coughing.
In not a Wild sweater. Like, that kind of upsets me a little bit.
Yeah, it sucks to see a longtime player leave to play 2 games with Columbus and retire rather than just retire.
Right. So there's rumors that they're going to sign Mikko to like that obligatory 1-day contract bullshit later this week, which cool. But I don't know, man. It just is one of those things where that dude was the Minnesota Wild for a very long time, and it was very weird to see him for 2 games in a different jersey. But at the end of the day, I don't think he was anywhere near playing strength. So he just decided to take his dignity with him instead of embarrass himself for a full season.
Yeah.
So, and we'll just open this can of worms right now. Don't think he wanted to deal with John Tortorella.
Yeah, I mean, whether he was having issues with Columbus, I think at some point you just look at that team and it's like, is a full season of this how I want to go out?
Oh, for sure.
Like, you know, even if he thought he could have finished this season, playing for John Tortorella in Columbus, Ohio, you've already watched your best player want out. Your new best player, Seth Jones is their best player, but one of your best players.
Line A immediately is in the top 3 on the team.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also, apparently, so is Jack Roslovic. But we could get to that next.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
this John Tortorella thing, man, he's got to be on his way out there.
It almost feels like he's burning bridges intentionally.
And that was, who was the reporter? Aaron Portzline said,
Yep.
was it in The Athletic? Or it seems like every major report of drama now comes to The Athletic. But I want to say this was actually a radio show. And the theory...
He is a writer for The Athletic, but it was on, like, I think a Columbus radio show.
Okay.
I want to say.
But yeah, wondering if Tortorella at this point is benching people just to get himself fired. Which, I'm going to say, if that's the case, then he can go fuck himself crying about PLD.
Resign.
Yeah. And then he can fuck himself trying to make Pierre-Luc Dubois look bad for giving up on the team, if that's what he's doing.
Right.
I'm so tired of watching this John Tortorella defense crew. Every time he's a fucking asshole, they deny that he's an asshole. They say, like, young players just can't handle it. It's like, well, other coaches have adapted to the young players. And I always seem to see people say he forces his players to play hard and he gets results. What fucking results is he getting? They have won one best-of-7 playoff series in his tenure in Columbus.
Mm-hmm.
We're not taught. He has won a Stanley Cup 17 years ago. Pre-cap era.
Yeah, right.
And it was because he had Marty St. Louis, who is apparently the one guy that thought that being screamed at all the time fucking rocks.
I mean, look at that Tampa team. Marty St. Louis, Vinny LeCavalier, like the list goes on and on with that Tampa team.
Exactly.
Fuck, who was the goalie? Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Bobby Boulin, right?
You're right. Bobby Boulin, yes. But it doesn't matter. And like you said, if you're going to cry about the fact that PLD is going to, like, oh, he's being a little bitch, your head coach is setting that example. And again, this is all speculation to just say, like, oh, he could be creating problems, but also at the same time, like, it fucking feels very much like Tortorella is throwing a fit to throw a fit.
Well, just to circle back, in case there's any people in the Venn diagram of the small people who don't know about this overlapping with the small people who listen to this show, what happened is Patrick Laine... I doubt there's any people that fit both of those categories.
But just in case.
But, basically, Patrick Laine got to Columbus, 3 goals in 3 games to start. In his 4th game, he played about 7 minutes in the first period, played 4 minutes in the second, and then he got benched for the rest of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And immediately the speculation is that Tortorella's being an asshole. This is what they expected. And then Laine comes out and says that he mouthed off to a coach and he deserved it. And players mouth off to coaches. I can't imagine something that Patrick Laine could have said that he absolutely had to be benched for, that any other coach would have benched him for. I think at this point, either Tortorella wants out and is just burning bridges, or he just gets off on benching name players.
Yeah. And I know me and you talked a little bit about this during the week, where it's one of those things of, like, at what point... Oh, fuck. The train. It just completely left my head. It's hockey. It's a vulgar, violent sport, and I've been around it enough. You've been around it enough to know. Guess what? People tell the coaches to go fuck themselves.
Yeah.
It's just part of the sport. There's no malice meant in it, especially if it's a tough game. It's one of those things where he comes over and just like, dude, like...
Especially when the leader of that coaching staff is John Tortorella, who's also telling the players to go fuck themselves.
Bingo.
Like,
yeah.
He always says, like, what an open, honest team they are, but if you, like, tell a coach to fuck off, you're benched, even if you're putting up a goal a game? It's ridiculous.
I totally understand the thought of, like, don't talk to your coach like that. I totally do, because I'm also that person who is, like, I was raised to tell the coach, like, yep, no, you're respectful. But also, it's a professional game.
Exactly.
A coach is going to tell you something, and sometimes you're not going to agree with it. And if we don't know to the degree of the lip service that Laine gave, but it could have just been something that's so simple. It's like, dude, that's not fucking working. What do you want us to do? Like, that's how simple it could have been. And if it's if he's getting benched for little indiscretions like that, that's one thing. If he's getting benched for, dropping a C-bomb at a coach, then yeah. If he's calling him a rooster sucker, then yeah, you know what? Like,
rooster sucker.
that's a whole nother thing. But if it's, I don't know. Yeah.
Well, and the thing is, like, yeah, I've never talked to a coach like that either. I've also never been an elite pure scorer in the NHL. And a lot of the speculation is that it probably comes down to them hounding him to play, John Tortorella hockey. And it's like, well, you knew who he was when you traded for him. You don't acquire Patrick Laine to get a good 200-foot winger.
No.
And that's ultimately where we talked about that trade at length. This is the most predictable storyline in the NHL this season.
Does it also feel like a storyline the NHL kind of needs right now?
Yeah. Some John Tortorella drama to lighten the room a little.
Yeah, with the black mark that they're getting right now with the COVID stuff. It's like, go look at that. Look at this team that's burning down. Like, we got people retiring. We got people fighting the coach. We got people trading. We got the coach, like, it's just one of those things where it also always seems like this is what happens at the end of Tortorella's tenure with the team. To circle back to the opening.
Yeah.
Because this is the kind of shit, I think it was with the Rangers, correct? Where this kind of shit started popping up too.
Yep.
Where he was benching people and he didn't have a good relationship with Rick Nash, if I remember correctly.
No, I think that was why, because Nash had just signed a deal with, movement clauses. I don't know exactly what he had, but he was not far into a new contract.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to remember if that was like a thing.
No, Nash didn't go before Torts. I'm thinking of when Nash left Columbus. Easy mistake to make. Yeah. Given the situation, but yeah.
Yeah, but even, I remember when things started to fall apart in New York. It was they weren't winning and there was drama, and it kind of feels like that same thing happened when he left Tampa. Yep. They weren't winning. There was a lot of bullshit between LeCavalier and St. Louis and all that kind of stuff.
Did he get fired from New York, or did they just not renew him?
I don't think they renewed him, but it was also one of those things is if you had a year left on your contract, you were getting fired.
Yeah. And I also don't really remember what happened with him in Vancouver. But at the same time, he was kind of coming unhinged there, trying to fight the other coach in the locker room after a line ball.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. This feels like very typical John Tortorella antics. And I'm not sitting here I'm not going to defend John Tortorella's actions because he seems like a grade A asshole.
Yeah.
But for a brief period of time, his teams win.
Yeah.
They may not win. They may not win at all.
They put together good regular seasons.
Yeah, they're usually pretty fucking good teams.
Yeah. Sometimes they stay good all the way till Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final.
Yeah.
And then, then all hell breaks loose to the point of civil unrest.
This is what I wish Trent was here.
He would have already said that forever ago.
Yeah, true, but also fuck Tim Thomas.
Now I definitely wish Trent was here.
For sure.
He's going to listen to this and he is not going to be happy with you.
No, he's not. While we're on this, was Roslovic really the real point of this trade? Were they sitting there plotting, listen, we can do this, but, let's throw in, let's fucking get Roslovic while we're at it.
I think as many suitors as there were to acquire Jack Roslovic, I think there was a general feeling that given the chance to play higher in the lineup, that he might be a good player.
Oh, yeah.
I think a lot of people were thinking if he got the shot, he could be a top 6 forward.
Dude's got crazy skill.
Yeah.
Center. Yeah, dude's crazy skilled. I was shocked. I was watching the other day, and I was like, my God, this dude has like talent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I shouldn't be shocked because they're in the NHL and all those guys are skilled in their own way.
Well, I mean, when you say that, though, obviously you're talking about proportionally, like, NHL level, like, noticeable talent.
Yeah, exactly. And that, like, it's one of those things where it jumps off the page where you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, this dude can move. He's got hands. He's smart. Like, he's got a big IQ. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I get why you made the trade for him.
A big IQ.
I don't know. Big IQ. Dude, big brain. Galaxy brain shit.
I think Big IQ is our episode title so far.
Big IQ.
Yeah, I don't know. John Tortorella it looks like he's probably on his way out. I don't think you can keep him and let him push one more player away.
No. God, no.
God forbid it got so bad that he pushed away the Columbus native in Jack Roslovic. Along with, imagine if he pushed away both players that they got in return for a player that he pushed away.
Oh my God. For real.
I think at this point, he's done too much damage. You've got to get rid of him.
Oh yeah, for sure.
If he was a player that had this many issues with every team he goes to eventually, no one would be fucking giving him the benefit of the doubt the way they do John Tortorella. Because everyone fetishizes him yelling at people for some reason.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And one last Patrick Laine thing. You see that fight?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
It's embarrassing.
Homie should probably keep the gloves on. You know what? I don't think it's embarrassing in the sense that he didn't need to do that. He went in to stand up for Roslovic. Yeah. He went and stood up to a guy he had no business fighting. At the very beginning of that fight, it looks like he's getting a couple off and he might be okay. He's strong. I thought he might do all right, but oh boy.
He got a couple in, but he got absolutely...
He got fed.
Yeah, to steal an old Eric Bolton line, he ate some shit.
Yeah.
he ate some shit. Yeah, I mean, good for him and again, I mean, he knows Roslovic, obviously. So for him to step up for an old teammate shows he's at least willing to do that. Like, people always like, I heard that narrative too, where it's like, oh, well, Laine's selfish. That's not something somebody who doesn't give even an iota of a fuck about his teammate does.
Yeah. Yeah.
So good for him. He ate some shit. Do you want to tell me your thoughts on Brian Burke real quick before I get into this little rapid fire segment I have for you?
Oh boy, Brian Burke.
Or we'll start. This will be the start of the rapid fire.
Let's say either this or else we should maybe take a break just so I can make sure I get these groceries picked up by 7. Let's do this rapid fire thing first. Brian Burke, Penguins hired Ron Hextall as the GM, Brian Burke as the team's first president of hockey operations. It's the best explanation of this move that I've heard is actually it was on Puck Soup they were talking about it. And Down Goes Brown pointed out that as much as Brian Burke doesn't have too much success, if you look at his trade history, it's not bad.
No, it's not bad at all. And he's made some really nice moves.
I kind of agree with the sense that they were talking about. That basically comes down to the combination of those two in tandem. You get Burke to make some trades to get this team good right now. And you have Hextall to help manage the future while doing that. That's the most sense I can make of it. I hope that there is something as coherent as that. Because that's not really what I thought at first. I mean, the thing with Hextall, just because his reputation was that he went and, built from the bottom up in Philly, it doesn't mean that's all he can do. He played a role in helping with the Kings that I think gets overlooked.
Yeah, he did kind of help build those teams, didn't he?
Exactly. And I'm a Penguins fan, so I have to say that. I'm not going to act like I remembered the role he played with the Kings until I was looking for reasons to not cry. But
For sure.
But yeah, I don't know, man. At this point, I kind of think the window's closed, so if there's something that could possibly keep it open for a little bit, what do we have to lose here?
For sure. For sure.
They look good today.
They did look good today.
They won by 3. There was 2 empty netters, but I mean, even empty netters, I think people think that they're a lot easier than they are.
I think they're one of those things where it's also like, okay, you really won 4-3. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I mean, like I said, that's why I add that caveat. We won by 3, but there was 2 empty netters.
Yeah.
But I mean, Zach Aston Reese, 2 goals in 2 games since coming back. Again, one of them an empty netter. But, you know, that's one of my favorite players. I've been waiting for him. Brian Rust with 2 goals. Good to see that more and more it looks like last year wasn't a flash in the pan.
Well, it's good to see that it sounds like Rust and Zucker aren't spending too much time together anymore.
That quote was pretty funny. They asked Jason Zucker how the social distancing is working. And he said, well, it's kind of good because it keeps me away from Rusty. The less time I can spend around him is a positive.
Which is also a very Jason Zucker quote to just like that's his personality.
Oh, it's a very Brian Rust thing to have that relationship with a player. Like, when everything first happened, because Zach Aston Reese was living alone at an apartment in Pittsburgh, apparently when the Penguins went on the road, Brian Rust's wife was going to his house to feed his dog and stuff for him. So that he didn't have to just be alone when everyone was quarantining, Zach Aston Reese was living with the Rust family. And they got really into playing Settlers of Catan. So
Carly had talked about how they would have like once or twice a week Settlers of Catan nights for the Wild players when they were in Minnesota.
I bet that is how Brian Rust and Jason Zucker built this friendship.
Oh, God.
And they are both very similar players.
Oh, yeah.
Brian Rust is, now that he actually gets goal, for a long time, Brian Rust was that guy that got a million breakaways and couldn't finish. Now that he's actually finishing with his speed and him not typically being a gritty player, but a player very capable of playing that game and good defensive, he is a right shot Jason Zucker in a way.
Yeah, for sure. Nice to see Gensel score today.
Yeah.
5 on the season. He's starting to look like he's being Jake Gensel. So that's big for you guys. All right. A couple more things here real quick. 1 month into the season, give me your biggest surprise team and biggest disappointment team.
My biggest surprise team? I mean, it's got to be Montreal.
It has to, yeah. I would say that would be the answer for both of us is Montreal.
Yeah, and then both of them, my biggest surprise, getting a boost off this, my biggest disappointment, Vancouver.
Yeah, I would agree.
And the Senators. Did not... well documented that I did not see them being this bad.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to say for my biggest disappointment, I'm a little surprised the Oilers are as slow as they are right now.
Yeah, that's fair.
I wouldn't say, like, it's not some crazy, they're not losing all the time, but it's just like, you could be so much more. But they have no fucking goaltending.
The thing is, that's the thing. With the Oilers, there's already so many apparent weaknesses in that roster that I can't call them being... They're one of those teams that no matter where they finish, it won't surprise me.
Right. I thought they'd be a little bit better, but yeah, it's just one of those things. I would say I'd also throw the caveat. I know you talked about it a little bit in our preview episode. I can't believe the Penguins are that bad, man.
Yeah.
I know you kind of felt it a little bit, but like they're shockingly bad.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is, they are winning games. It just takes overtime and shootouts.
They won today.
They're 5-0 at home.
Today. In regulation, they won today.
Yeah, their second regulation win all year. That was game they did. Well, I mean, Jesus. New Jersey for the last few years, no matter how bad they are or how good we are, they just have our number for some reason. And
you guys have the Capitals number.
Yeah, this year it seems like it.
Mm-hmm.
But again, both of those took. I think both of those games were shootouts that we beat them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the Penguins' record would look like right now if it wasn't for 3 games against the Devils being canceled during the Devils break.
Mm-hmm.
Postponed, not canceled, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. There's still so much good on this team.
The roster's loaded.
Yeah.
Like, that's the fucked up thing, is that roster's stacked.
Yeah. And that forward core should be great. Obviously,
it should be.
Sid, Gensel, and Rust on the top line. Malkin, Zucker, and I don't know. They've been switching up lines a lot. Kapanen kind of floats up and down, as does Rust, between the first and second lines. They switch them off. When healthy, the third line, Jankowski, McCann, and Sevior. And then that fourth line, Zach Aston-Reese, Brandon Tanev, and Teddy Bluger. One of the better fourth lines in the NHL.
Mm-hmm.
On defense, Chris Letang is Chris Letang. You gotta assume he's eventually gonna start playing better. John Marino.
Hold on, let me write down that we brought up Teddy Bluger on this podcast again real quick.
I like that for an audio podcast you committed to pantomiming like you were writing it down.
I got notes, bro.
But no, I mean, because at times Teddy Bluger is like the best player on the team, which is not what you want. I mean, that's a sign of how bad the Penguins have been. Not a knock on him, right, but he is a fourth line center.
Yeah.
The defense, they have, John Marino and Pierre-Olivier Joseph, 2 young stud puck movers.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, he's hurt. Brian Dumoulin, I would say one of the better stay-at-home D-men in the league. You'd think Letang should come around, but then I just named a lot of players, but the goaltending is so bad. With injuries, Mike Matheson's been fucking awful.
He scored today, didn't he?
He got an assist. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cody Ceci, even the player, a lot of the players aren't playing terrible. It's just when they fucking do.
Right.
The things that happen. This team just can't click at once. And now, we had one good game, so I see people say, I think the Penguins are finding their game. And it's like,
no.
Yeah, they're going to win once in a while, man. It doesn't mean that things are better.
Listen.
We got a new GM, but he hasn't done anything yet.
Right. As a Wild fan, I want you guys to lose every game.
You should.
Because I want that pick.
Yeah, so I'm not offended by that. You should be rooting against us.
But also, I've made it very apparent on this podcast. You have my boy on your team. I would like to see him succeed.
Teddy Bluger.
Truly. No, Sidney Crosby.
Yeah, your boy Sidney Crosby. Noted Crosby lover.
Opposite. Actually, I wouldn't say I'm a hater. I'm just very sick of it.
Yeah.
It's calmed down since McDavid came into the league because now the NHL has somebody else's balls to play with. So
Yeah.
but I have no issues with Sid. I mean, never mind. Yeah, I don't know, man. I want Zucker to succeed. Did that finally click for you?
Yes. Let's move on.
I want Zucker to succeed. I don't want the Penguins to succeed.
Yeah.
And we're not going to talk about the Wild tonight because they have 12 players on 9 as of today on the COVID list. They haven't played a game in 2 weeks. So
are they allowed to practice yet?
They went back to practice yesterday.
Okay, I thought I saw that there was a date coming up where the players that were not infected could play, but I didn't know if that date had come yet.
It was yesterday, and sounds like they're going to play on Tuesday. It sounds like Kalen Addison is going to make his debut.
All right.
Yeah, but let me just quickly read you the list of players that are currently still on their COVID protocol.
Oh, this is going to be a list of guys I haven't thought of in years.
Nick Bonino.
It's good so far.
Jonas Brodin. Cam Talbot. Ian Cole. Brad Hunt. Carson Soucy. Victor Rask. Kyle Rao. Nico Sturm.
Wow, Victor Rask is still in the NHL. That's a name I don't think of a lot.
The last time the Wild played, he had a 2-goal game.
That's crazy, because I think he had like a 2-goal season before coming to Minnesota.
We looked it up the last time he scored 2 goals in a game when that game was happening, and it was like 2018.
I was say, was it like fucking juniors?
Yeah.
With
he never had a hat
Sting.
trick in it. We looked it up because we were like, no way that Victor Rask has a hat trick in the NHL. And we were right. He doesn't.
Yeah, no. Yeah, Rask was like a pretty good play. It was Rask, right, that had the sliced his hand open and was never really the same after that?
Yeah.
Okay, I couldn't, because he was traded. You traded Waugh to get him, right?
No, we traded Niederreiter.
Okay.
We traded Niederreiter for Victor Rask. Because that was that weird Paul Fenton era where he traded a bunch of people, and then it came out that he was a piece of shit. So people, like, he got fired, and then they brought in your guy, Billy Guerin.
Yeah.
So that was that era where they traded Coyle, Grandland, Niederreiter, and Zucker, like, all very quickly.
All right.
So, yeah.
What do we
right,
have left? You think we could wrap this up in like a half hour?
Yeah.
Tops?
Yeah.
Cool.
I just have one question left for you. Again, kind of 1 month into the season kind of thing. Thoughts on division realignment at the moment after seeing it play out for a month?
Honestly, for it being a 1-year thing, I don't give a shit. Like, I like it for... Give something different a try for a year, you know? I don't really have a problem with it. I'm seeing some people saying they're getting bored of the same teams. I kind of wonder, like, how familiar... When I see older people saying that, it's like, do you not remember the NHL before? Like, I mean, yeah, there was more other teams mixed in, but these teams used to play each other all the fucking time before.
It used to be, what, 8 to 9 games a year?
Yeah.
Because they only played 8 to 9 games. Yeah.
Yeah, like, there was only 24 teams, and you played your division, like, 8 times, and you only played the other conference once. Instead of once at home. That was only 2014 when they started doing a home and away.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, like, I mean, that alone really opened up. Especially then you think there was 3 divisions. So you really played those teams a lot. So yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I kind of... Because it was like 5 or 6 before they cut it down to 2 divisions, right? Yeah. And before that, it was even more... Yeah, it wasn't that long ago that it was like 7 or 8 times these teams played each other.
Yeah, no, I specifically remember waiting, because I graduated high school in 2014, and I specifically had to wait because I was kind of a big Henrik Lundqvist fan at the time. Like, I just liked the person.
And you had to wait for the every other season when the Rangers come to Minnesota instead of vice versa. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I specifically remember like waiting, and then obviously there was a time of year where he was in Minnesota once a year, so I was like super stoked to go watch Hank play. But yeah, my biggest thing with this is I'm more interested to see what happens when the NHL goes back to a normal schedule. Is how much, because you're seeing stuff like the Wild and Kings have beef now.
You hope it transfers. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, things like that. Who was it the other night? Arizona has beef with like the Blues now. It's just like there's a bunch of suddenly like, oh, these like you just made a potentially not exciting game down the road really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah,
and I think
have you seen some people like calling for them to realign, like have a Canadian division just permanently now? It's ridiculous. You know, I think it'd be kind of cool. I don't know.
I thought at the beginning of it, I was that person who thought, I'm like, if this goes well, they might do this full time. And then, obviously, now a month into this, I'm like, fuck this. I want to play Calgary or Vancouver. Like, those are fun, natural rivals for the Wild. Not natural, but you know what I mean. Like, I would like to see McDavid every now and again.
Yeah, holy shit, I did not realize that today was the 4th loss in a row for why am I
Capitals?
Blanking? Yeah, for the Capitals.
Yeah, the wheels are coming off a little bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you start out and it takes forever to lose a game in regulation, then now they have 4 of them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
So,
and the Islanders have passed them up in the standings.
Oh.
Yeah.
The Islanders finally got their shit together, so.
Yeah. I'd like to think we helped play a role in that.
You kind of did.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. You got anything else you want to talk about tonight?
Not really. Oh, did you see Tony DeAngelo finally broke his silence?
No, I did not. Did that happen today?
No, I was reading reports about it yesterday, maybe even Friday.
I've been moving, dude. Like, with work and moving, I haven't...
He didn't say anything too interesting, which is a bummer. He basically just said that he feels that he's being misportrayed, but that he doesn't in any way want to play a victim. So...
Your Twitter account says differently, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's... There's Tony... Oh, okay, I got that. The burner account.
Yeah.
I am at this point so sure that that's not actually him using a burner account.
Oh, there's...
But is someone...
No
either
chances. Someone
just, like, that's dumb... Or someone
or
who
funny.
is playing 3D chess and made a Twitter account to make it look like he's Tony DeAngelo's burner account. Which is great meta humor. And then I kind of wonder, like, did they go to the extent of using a VPN to show that they were in Philly at the time that the Rangers were in Philly? And are they, like... Are they knowing when... the Rangers were practicing to make sure they weren't tweeting while he's on the ice at practice or games?
There are petty people out there who will do that.
It's amazing. I'm pretty sure it's someone fucking with us, and bless them. Because it is hilarious.
Yeah. Listen, people need shit to do during quarantine, and if this is how people are going to fill their time, I'm all about it.
Yeah. No, yeah. Clowning on that asshole is a great way to spend your pandemic.
Oh, Jesus. All right. Well, I think that's about all for tonight. I think we covered a lot.
Yeah. Should we mention this staggering goal differential for the for the Maple Leafs? And the Canadians, really, but...
Listen, man, I will bring this up purely because I know Alec Ramos will listen to this.
He will?
Yes, he will.
Oh.
The officiating the Maple Leafs get is fucking atrocious.
They've definitely not had the best luck, no.
It's bad, man. And like last night it was their own doing where they just couldn't score, which I'll take a Carey Price 1-goal win for my fantasy team. But at the same time, like, there was blatant like holdings and elbow, like there was blatant shit. I'm just like, it's stuff that makes you go like, I know it's Maple Leafs. I know it's Leafs fans being Leafs fans, but fuck, that's bad.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and wasn't it, we talked about it last week, the last episode, wasn't it Marner that there was just that absolute phantom slashing call?
Atrocious phantom slash on.
And, yeah, I mean, people, the Leafs, I mean, their fan base kind of does it to themselves. They have a lot of people that love to hate on them. And so there's always the idiots saying that they're the NHL's baby and the league is helping them. You can't even try to say that this year.
No, you can't. And like it's the thing I told you on the phone of, if the NHL truly had that much of a vested interest in how well the Maple Leafs did, the Maple Leafs would win every single fucking year because it's their biggest moneymaker. And
I think Connor McDavid would probably be in their locker room right now.
For sure. Oh yeah, yeah. It's one of those things like to me that's a short-sighted argument where it's like, oh, the NHL just wants Toronto to win. No, because if that was true, they would have won. They'd have a couple cups in the last 54 years.
What would the NHL get out of rigging things for Toronto? They already have a massive fan base that clearly shows out when they struggle anyways.
Exactly.
Like they're not a fan base that would need to be handed anything to stick around. Like
exactly.
if you want to get into those conspiracy theories, I think it's stupid in the first place. But especially with the Leafs, there's nothing to be gained for the NHL by handing things to the Leafs.
Bingo. And like I've said about people who bring up the sports are rigged argument, leagues know where their interests lie, but leagues also know that if it came out that games were rigged in any sort of way, doesn't matter what league, it would legitimately be the biggest scandal to come across like the country. Because that means you have front office officials, referees, players, reporters who are potentially paid off.
Yeah.
Like it's a massive list. We're talking thousands of people would need to know that these games are fucking rigged.
Boy, you know what I just saw? If you look at the bottom of the league standings, Vancouver is up as high as 22nd.
Mm-hmm.
They have 18 games played. The only three teams that are within 5 games played of 18, Nashville with 15 has 2 less points.
Oh.
So, but easily could pass them up in those 3 games. I'd assume Nashville will get a win in their next 3 games. So kind of write them off. And then Detroit and Ottawa, I think, is kind of a given. Detroit, with 2 wins in their next 2 games, could tie Vancouver in points. Ottawa could not. But then, other than those 3 teams, one of which I think will pass them up by the time they get to 18, the teams below Vancouver, Minnesota with 11 games played and only 2 less points.
But they're on a COVID outbreak.
Yeah, so only 2 less points with 7 games in hand. The Rangers, Kings, and San Jose all with only 3 less points in 5 less games played. New Jersey
And the Sharks
with only 4 less points in 9 less games played. And then Buffalo with 4 less points in 8 less games played.
Oh.
Holy shit, this team is terrible.
Yeah. And the thing I forgot to bring up quickly about before we end, the Sharks finally went back to San Jose yesterday. They're finally back playing at SAP.
Yeah.
For the first time this season.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. So good for them, but yeah.
Also, Vancouver started out 5-3.
They started out pretty hot, and Bo Horvat good, Canucks bad.
Yeah, they started out 5-3 and then have dropped 8 of their last 10. Wow. It's just, I mean, they're bad, but then, towards the end when I'm just looking through the standings to see if there's anything else we should bring up. Just, holy shit, a -13 goal differential, which only San Jose, Nashville, Detroit, and Ottawa below them. None of those teams have a goalie.
Yeah, that's the other thing, too. All of the goaltending outside of Montreal, the goaltending in the North Division is so bad.
And that's why I kind of struggle to think too much of these teams. Even with Montreal being as good as they've been. Part of it is me not wanting to admit I'm wrong. But also part of it is that the points differential goes +15, +13, +3, +9, +3. The only teams that are negative are at the bottom. Vancouver with a -13 and Ottawa with a -30.
Oh.
64 goals against in 16 games played for the Senators. And 34 goals for in 16 games played. And keep in mind, they had that 8-4 game with Edmonton.
They did, yeah.
So you take that out, and you're talking 30 and 15, and they're a 2 goals a game team. Man,
it's tough. It's brutal, man.
Yeah,
it's just straight up brutal. But man, like I said, you go through that. Holtby doesn't look very good in Vancouver. Neither does Thatcher Demko. Fucking Markstrom looks like a mistake for the Flames.
Yeah.
I don't know if mistake is the right word, but overpaid, definitely.
Overpaid? I don't know. I think he's still probably, in the long game, an upgrade for them.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know about that contract.
I don't know about that contract either. And Richter doesn't look to be what he was last year for them as a backup either.
Yeah.
Ritter, sorry.
I was like, Mike Richter come out of retirement?
Yeah, Ritter.
Pittsburgh native, previous New York Rangers all-time wins leader, not a big deal.
Freddie Anderson looks fucking awful for Toronto. Just terrible.
Yeah. Who would have thought
Matt Murray,
he would not be the best Anderson in Toronto? Or wait,
for real.
I was so mixed up there. No, forget I said anything. I'm tired.
Yeah, man. We'll wrap this up, but beware. I would say I know I picked Toronto. I like Toronto a lot, but be wary of any of the teams coming out of the North Division because they might not be as good as you think they are.
Yeah.
Toronto offensively looks really fucking good. Defensively and goaltending wise, no.
Oh, and that's the thing. It's not lost on me that I just brought up the league standings when pointing out how bad Vancouver is. But for one, they are playing that bad in a division that I don't know. I mean, I don't want to shit on the Canadian division, but it didn't have a lot of high expectations there.
No, and the high expectations were for one team.
And it was
and that
Vancouver.
One team, yeah. But also, like, it's that Canadian thing of, like, all those teams have high expectations every year because they're a Canadian team.
Well, yeah, within their media markets, yes, but that's...
Right.
Yeah.
Nationally, no. Yeah, nationally, fuck no. But, like, in their media markets, it's always like, oh, what if they get hot? Or, you know, oh, no. Looking at you, Toronto media.
Yeah.
But...
Oh, in this case, they're getting their wish.
We didn't even, you know what we didn't talk about?
What?
We didn't talk about an intern that misspoke.
A what?
We didn't talk about the goal kerfuffle for the Columbus
We did not.
game.
No, we didn't.
I don't feel like bringing
Vincent Trocheck scored a
power.
goal. The play was offsides. They went to review it. Right now, there's an issue with the ref. They have to wipe stuff down after they use it. And so basically, there was an intern on the line, apparently watching the wrong play, saying that's onside. The ref heard that and was wiping down the headphones as they were trying to get him back on to tell him that that was a mistake. The intern was not supposed to be talking at all. This is at least the story we're getting. They go back...
Via The Athletic, by the way.
Yeah, and the period had been finished, so also Columbus is given a penalty for incorrectly... Yeah, for incorrectly challenging an offsides call. They go back, they determine that it was offsides. They take the penalty off the board, even though about half of it has already been killed, but they can't take the goal off the board because there's no precedent set. There's no precedent set to take a penalty off the board either. I don't know if they're familiar with what precedent means. You need to set a precedent for there to be a precedent. The NHL butchered the shit out of this.
The logic for erasing the penalty makes sense to me. The logic for wiping away the penalty, in theory, makes sense. It's a lot easier to validate erasing a penalty than it is to wipe a goal. And it's just a calamity of errors.
Well, like Carolina had just spent an 18-minute intermission planning on going into the period up by a goal.
Yep. Yeah.
It's... You know, God forbid they let them know during the intermission.
Mm.
You know? They didn't need to spend an 18-minute intermission thinking they were going to go into the third up by a goal.
Yeah.
I think that if you're going back and setting the precedent that we could take the penalty off the board, fix the whole thing. And John Tortorella was surprisingly restrained about it.
Yeah. But I think that's also probably one of those things where he didn't realize how big of a fuck up it was till after the game.
Yeah. But even after the game, he just said, like, I'll let the league handle it. Which is... you gotta wish that he would say that more often.
Yeah. That is funny that coming off an episode we just recorded about the biggest rule changes...
And we all kind of were in agreement that it's probably video review. And we said how we avoided getting into that situation, saying we'd talk about it on Homertown Hockey proper. And we fucking got it in our closing notes.
Yeah. It's just a mistake, man. Like, flat and simple. It's a mistake on all sides. I feel bad for the kid because if they didn't have to wipe down the equipment, probably doesn't hear them.
Yeah.
Or, you know, or it's just one of those things where it's like he hears, everybody's like, nope, offside. They're looking at the right play, and then the idiot who's watching the wrong play in the background is like, oh, it's offside. Like, no, no, shut up. Like, you know, it's one of those things where, like, the timing sucks. NHL should have admitted they got it wrong. And like you said, you can't set one precedent without setting the other, especially if you in the game admitted you made the mistake.
Yeah, it was really bad.
It's not a it's brutal. It's just one of those things where you see it and you're just like, oh, how did you fuck that up that badly?
Yeah. Yep. I don't know. It's also it's been like a week now.
Yeah,
so
there's not much else to say about it.
Like every take has already been given.
Yeah. And I think our take is summarized into that sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really dumb.
Yeah, it was really dumb. Well, let's get you out of here. Trent is not here tonight to approve this message.
I can only assume he would.
He would approve it, but I'm not going to. So, we'll see you later.
Yeah, just fuck off, everyone.